constantly converting it to water where it leaves the machine.
So
You can actually see here, it's kind of like a EKG of the machine where you go up and down, and that lets us know if the microbiology is actually in a healthy state inside of the machine.
So we talked earlier in a previous video, we talked about the human stomach and how the digester is like the human stomach. I like to look at these charts as this is the EKG tape.
Right.
So when you see that it's coming down like you see here, this is a weekend. So it would make sense that it's not going to digest as much.
Right.
When it's running, I said to you then that it runs 24 hours, it's constantly churning.
Right.
So that's what you're seeing here. So this is overnight. So overnight, it's calming down. So just like your human stomach,
right?
You're going to sleep. Your body's still processing stuff though. So that's exactly what this is showing. It's still processing. Then we start feeding it again. It's got to work a little bit harder, and then it gets to rest again, and it eats it all down.
That's
so
amazing.
It's very similar to what you see in your body happening.
And it just goes to show you just how efficient this bacteria and the microbiome with the fungus bacteria and maybe protists, who knows, but the microbiome itself is very efficient.
Oh, yeah.
You load it up almost to maximum capacity and it's digesting, and then it happens again. So I think that just the power of microbes is a little bit mind-boggling.
Well, I mean, you read articles, you see all over the internet now, people that are talking about their gut health.
Yes.
What they're feeding to get good gut health. Well, that's what we're shooting for here. We ask customers to feed, we encourage them to get a good blend of food because you get good gut health that way. And then that's when you see that it's properly eating it down. So, but that's these metrics that we use from our side. So this is the side that as the research development person, this is what I go to.
Right.
The environmental information is good to have, but to me, this is what's going to make my product better, is by looking at this data, and we can use this to troubleshoot, and we can use this to figure out, is there timing to what we need to be doing? Is there something we can tweak up to make it better? So that's where this becomes just really important to have.
I love it, and we're going to give it back to you, Bill, but I just want to say for those students out there, or those people, but especially the students, if you're bored in math class, basically, get over it. Start crunching numbers. Start falling in love with math, because math equals money, math equals profits, and calculating is math is the sister of science, right? So like STEM, science, tech, engineering, and math, like this is the future. This is the now. This company's leading the globe in reducing food waste and maximizing profits for their clients. So if you're someone out there watching, you should reach out to BioHiTech. And if you're a student out there, this is the stock market. This is financial. Learning how to read numbers is a language, and you need to become fluent in it.
Absolutely. Everything you said here about mathematics and science and data, our company is an outstanding example of how we can use science, we can use biology, we can use computers, and we can use math. And all of those things are very powerful by themselves. But when we bring it all together, we get a very, very powerful solution that's not just useful for ourselves inside of our company, but also becomes very powerful for our customers, and they can start to have a very positive impact, not only in their business, where they run their business more effectively, but ultimately have a positive impact on the planet, which is, just fantastic.
Yeah, and I just have to, I couldn't resist, Bill. So for my students out there who I taught at Far Hills Country Day School, a very, very phenomenal private school in New Jersey, they asked me, when are we ever, Mr. Marculides, going to use a histogram? Well, here's a beautiful example of a histogram live in action right here. Can you please explain this, Bill? This is the feed histogram the last 14 days. You have feed count 0 going up to 240. What does this show us?
Yeah, so one of the things that the histogram is really powerful for is, segmenting data and, showing how people are really using the machine. So the metrics that you see on the left-hand side that read 0, 30, 60, 90, that shows the load size. So that shows you at any given time when someone opens the door of the digester, dumps food in, and closes it, we call that a load. So we like to understand how much food are people putting at one time inside of the machine. Because we would really prefer that they're putting in 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds at a time and not 200 pounds at a time.
Interesting.
And you can see here on this histogram that we do have one load in the last 14 days where someone loaded the machine up all at once with 200 pounds, which is the equivalent of eating, 5 turkey dinners at Thanksgiving.
Right, which is not good for the digester.
Right, and I bet, and Bill, just out of curiosity, go back up to the top graph that shows the digestion. So I'm going to guess that feed was probably right here. Right. Because you see that it hit out, but you'll also see that it took longer. If you look at the segmentation of that,
look at that slope.
It takes longer for it to eat down.
Right.
Just like your body. If you eat that huge meal all at once, you don't process it as well. Hence why we end up getting bigger and bigger.
Right.
It's because we're not portion control.
Right.
So the digester needs portion control just like
humans.
Just like humans.
Yeah, and that's we're talking independent, dependent variables. We're talking multiple types of graphs. This is obviously a line graph. You have bar graphs, and different, three different tiered bar graphs, and you have histograms. So I just love how much math is in this because math matters.
Math matters a lot, and one of the things that we're starting to do that I find really fascinating, which may be interested for your math students here, is things like artificial intelligence and machine learning, where it's not just people like me and Emily looking at the graphs, but actually getting computers to start looking at the graphs and start learning the trends and start learning how different customers are using the machine, and that's all powered with mathematics. And we are starting to use technologies like artificial intelligence and machine learning so that we can understand better, how our customers are using our machines. But the system can actually tell us when a machine is not very healthy. And we don't necessarily need to be looking at the graphs because our artificial intelligence neural network crunches that data and starts to learn when we see poor performance or poor behavior inside of the machine. So, not only now are we combining the science, the biology, the IT, and, just the simple graphing, but now we're starting to use some of the machine learning and artificial intelligence, all of which is based off of mathematics, to start having the system point out to us, when something, is going sideways with one of our customers.
Yeah, and I think
that can be a really challenging environment for us because we have customers that put all sorts of different foods inside of our machines, right? You may see us in a grocery store, but you may see us at a Dunkin' Donuts, or you may see us at a cheesecake factory, or you may see us at a prison. All of these different types of locations may have completely different types of food digestion profiles.
Right. And I just think, to hark back on the mathematics point, I often tell my students that, those of us who are, well-rounded, well-educated, and are going to be empowered in the future are going to be those who understand how to manage humans, interact with humans, have a really good soft skill of a social, emotional intelligence, self-awareness, but also computers, right? If you are trying to understand a histogram as a 35-year-old and you're in some sort of position like this, it's too late, buddy, right? Like you need to learn how to manage the mechanical and the artificial intelligence. You need to be able to manage the computers because they're obviously they're calculating bandwidth is going to be usually much more I don't want to say intelligent, but it's going to dwarf most human intellect. So you need to learn how to make the computers work for you and manage them, not the other way around. So I think that when we talk about 21st century and 22nd century education, you have a Chromebook, you have a computer, we have student growth objectives, we have all these things in education that are trying to be rigorous. But when it comes down to it, you need to be the one controlling the drone. You need to be the one controlling the computers and controlling what they're thinking and thinking about what they're thinking about. Not letting them do the job for you, because then you're going to be not in a good place.
Absolutely. And so, I've kind of built up the story here.
Yeah.
We started with our digesters, which was equipment. We added smart data collection technology to send all of this data up. Our customers are analyzing it. People like myself and Emily at BioHiTech are analyzing it. We have AI and machine learning technologies that are analyzing it. The last step that we are starting to implement is a feedback loop, right? Now we can push what we've learned in the cloud back down into our machines, and now our machines can actually work smarter, right?
Oh, wow.
We can actually take information that we've learned about in the cloud, push that information back down to our little Intel box, and we can have our machines work smarter. So we can change the agitation cycles inside of our machines so that we work at the most appropriate times of day because we know when the customer is using the machine and we know what their usage patterns are.
Right.
So we can actually have a more energy efficient type of machine.
So, Bill, I'm going to interrupt you just for a minute to show something here. So, for example...
Right, we're zooming in, ladies and gentlemen.
So, for example, when we get into this type of a fall-off, because we know they're shut down over the weekend, we might be able to reduce the amount of power that's actually going to that machine. Maybe because there's not that much food waste in it. We only need the arms to turn, every 10, 15 seconds instead of a constant rotation.
Okay.
Because there's not as much stuff packed in there.
Right.
So it becomes more energy efficient, it becomes more water efficient, it becomes more human efficient because people, if they're not going to be feeding it. And we can push that back into the machine to know that, so it automatically makes those adjustments versus somebody sitting and making those adjustments from a remote location.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, this is literally artificial intelligence helping save trees, save profits, and save man and woman power. This is great.
Bill, are you going to talk about Alto?
Yeah, I can do that a little bit about it, show a little demo. So maybe one of the last things that I think is really interesting, not only in terms of, pushing artificial intelligence back down in the machine, but also leveraging artificial intelligence to talk to the machines. So while it's wonderful to have, charts and data, sometimes, you just want to ask the machine a question and, all you may have is a smartphone with, some SMS capabilities or a messaging application. So our systems will also, communicate not only through the web or through an app, but you can actually talk to it over SMS and you can actually chat to it. And we have a technology that's called chatbot technology, where our machines can actually understand, just normal conversation, and you can talk to the machine. So, as an example, let me just pick a machine really quickly that I want to talk to, and I can say, how are you today? How are you? And the machine will basically come back and say, I'm doing great. I was utilized 58% in the last 24 hours. And, here's some information. I can say, what type of feeds have you had today? How many feeds have you had today? And, the system will basically come back and say, oh, here's all the times I was fed throughout the day. So I can actually have human conversation with my machine. I can do all of this over SMS or using my favorite messaging app. And I can actually start asking my machine questions.
So,
if this machine actually has a problem, it can actually walk me through steps to help me troubleshoot it as well.
So, Bill, a good example. So I was on vacation a couple weeks ago, sitting on the beach in the Outer Banks.
Nice. And
a question was emailed to me. And, of course, my cell phone's with me all the time.
Right.
Because we don't live without it. So a question was emailed to me about a digester. So I was able to pull up what the feeds were for that specific location and was able to say, well, it looks like you had your employees feeding it too much at this specific time, and I did it all through the chatbot.
Wow.
And it was instantaneous. So I could have the guy on the phone, I could bring it up through my app, because it's an app on my phone, and I could say, well, it looks like between 10:55 and 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you fed this thing like way too much.
Too much. You should, you reduce the feed, and here's your problem, and here's the solution.
Or, hey, I'm looking at this, and you guys aren't feeding it. The MO's hungry, and it's going to take a little while for it to start back up. So, it's
keep those microbes pumping, keep them eating, keep the oxygen in there.
So if you don't feed them for a little while, you're going to see this lag. And I can do all that by looking at that data right there live.
That's amazing. It's really, truly, if you use technology wisely, it frees you up. It empowers people. Again, I'm going to keep on saying it, people, profit, planet. It empowers the people, the profit of the company, and the planet. And this is literally, and I'm an enthusiastic guy, and all my viewers know that, but while almost not being enthusiastic, this is by bar, without a shadow of a doubt, the most impressive application of not only artificial intelligence we've ever seen with Green Revolution USA, but with live data, with eco-friendly, with almost like a global awareness, right? Mm-hmm. Like this, I've never seen this. And if you have, write a comment in the bottom. I'll reach out to that company, but I bet you can't find another company like this worldwide that is this cutting edge. BioHiTechGlobal is leading the way. And Bill, this is, I believe, although you're obviously, probably a humble guy and doing these great things in Pennsylvania, all the trees you're saving, all the kids you're helping not get asthma, this is where the rubber hits the road. And you're producing jobs, right? You're producing jobs and giving people real live data. So, for those students out there, this is a great field to go into.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, no, thanks for having us. We're still listening. What else do you want to show us? I mean, this is any other highlights you want to show our viewers? We're all ears.
Well, so I think maybe just a dovetail on maybe one of the last things that I think might be interesting, and hopefully you can see it on my screen, is that you can interact with our system in a lot of different ways. I think you've gotten the vibe of that. You can do it in a web browser. You can do it on a mobile device with an app.
Yeah.
You can do it with chatbots. So we really view ourselves as a platform, and we can put information wherever you think is most reasonable. So what I have here on the screen are just two examples. You can take our environmental data if you're a company, and you can embed it in your website if you want, right? We have HTML widgets or web widgets that you can take and you can embed into your corporate pages. And some of our customers that have sustainability groups want to promote the sustainability impact that they're having with their customers. So all of those cool environmental metrics that you rattled off later, all of those can instantly be embedded in your website, and you can promote to your customers, this is what we're doing. Likewise, you can take the same information and you can push it to a digital signage display, right? If you're in a corporate cafeteria and you want to say, hey, this is the type of environmental impact that this corporate cafeteria has had, or this is the type of impact that this individual store has had, you can do that as well. So we're really big believers in, the whole idea that information doesn't need to necessarily be locked up in a web browser on a web reporting analytics tool. That data is served where you can promote it in the best way possible. And that can be in a mobile app, that can be on a big TV sitting in your school cafeteria. It could be on your, intranet web portal. It could be in an SMS application. So we think that, data is really important. It's just a matter of wrapping it up in the most compelling way possible to try to